back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and we are back for another episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 17, and this is episode 10. This is called Star Spangled Mess. And before we get into it, sorry, hold on, let me fix this. The way I really want to just title the thumbnail Lame and Lamer, I just do. I do. Yeah, this divide is not good for the show, and Shamia is involved as much as she's trying to pretend she's not. She's a huge part of it, and at this point, you can't tell me any different because she actually did a thing at her event where she made the division extremely clear. So she's a huge part of this. And also, too, it's like she wants to forget that we were there during the reunion where she really wanted teams to happen. And she has it, and it's killing the show. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the divide. I'm not a fan. And by the way, for those who are new to the channel, besides me, Sharon, you're probably seeing who I'm petting right here. Whisper will probably most likely jump on top of this chair like she always does, and then I'll have to get her to move because she does too much whenever she tries to do this because, yeah, she's not really meant to be on this chair, but she'd be trying it every time because she just wants to be close to me. But I just want to let you know that's the other person, or not person, wow. My cat, she loves to make an appearance, so there's just that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the episode. I don't want to go over too long when it comes to all this. And for once upon a time, look at me. I did it, right? I'm doing it. Okay. But anyway, we start off this episode where we have Pinky, and she's meeting up with her team, and she's discussing her movie project that she's putting together called Edgewood. And then she kind of runs over her accolades, her past accolades of her being a former cast director for Ayanna Fix My Life, and then also her being used to being a producer for the Maury Povich show. And the goal is she basically is trying to tell her story, but she wants to tell her story in the way of it being Atlanta meets Insecure. And she decided Notori is going to be Notori from 3LW, from Power Universe. Notori. She is going to play Pinky in the role. I guess it's going to be a movie. And we also find out that her budget is going to be around $40,000. That's what she's trying to go for with this. And then she explains to us yet again that personal bankruptcy and business bankruptcy are not the same. So she's self-funding this, but she's self-funding it through her business. I don't know how much this is helping her when it comes to her bankruptcies of it all. I think she already filed, but I think at the time she didn't do it yet. So maybe it's all good. I don't know. But she kind of does explain that to us. And, we got away with roughly 2 episodes where we didn't talk about this woman's bankruptcy. There it is. I mean, barely, but it got mentioned, right? So there it is. But that's kind of all that happens here. And more to come with that next. Also, I'm going to hold the mic because I'm not sure if this is the newer mic or I need to charge this mic. And if you see here, I'm trying to pay attention to this light that's here. So anyway, but the next scene here, we have Angela and Drew. They arrive at Cynthia's house, and LaPrince, her baby, she's actually at her place. And LaPrince is fine. And the women are meeting him for the first time. Portia then joins, and then she meets him too. And he basically makes it known he loves her, and then speaks Dutch a little bit, which was hot. A black man speaking Dutch? Oh. Or speaking Danish? I wasn't ready for that. It was like, okay. I understand. I understand, Cynthia. And then he does, he sees, okay, they're about to have a girls' night. Because basically, Cynthia told them to show up as comfortable as you can. We're going to basically have us a good kiki. And so he exits. And then Cynthia in her confessional makes it known it's good that he knows how to read the room and not to be in woman's business. I'm like, I love that indirect shot towards her ex-husband, Patricia Thomas, or Peter Thomas. Anyway, Phaedra then does join shortly too, and she's in her comfy gear, and they basically recap of what the ladies have missed out on. So Portia and Cynthia recap that her and K. Michelle are now good, but there still is that lingering thing of who K. Michelle got the information from about who was trying to set her up. And then that kind of then snowballs to where basically, hold on, let me double check to make sure. Okay, there it is. I gotta find Whisper. Whisper be up to something, so I just gotta make sure she's close by. But anyway, this snowballs to Angela basically saying, I was trying to get to the bottom of it myself, and I met up with Shamia just to figure out what was going on, and she just took it to hell right away. Which, by the way, Angela's recap was a more accurate recap. We're going to hear Shamia shortly recap it herself, and she always leaves the parts where she did wrong in every single time, which is why I cannot, like Shamia, I just can't with you. You are always the victim. It's never your fault. It's always someone provoked you. You didn't start anything. And I think the women, some of the people a little bit on the neutral side are starting to see it. So anyway, I want to just put that out there because it's a little foreshadowing. And so all the women are just like, oh my gosh. And Angela's just like, yeah, she decided to take it to hell. And I was like, okay, let's go. And so as this is happening, Portia excuses herself right away because she's like, I don't want to give faces. I want to give nothing. I'm just going to leave. Which, you think Shamia would have done that? Absolutely not. And this is another reason why I just side Shamia at all times, because it's just like, you both had your parts in the friendship going wrong. I'm not saying Portia's innocent, and I know I'm always making it about the Portia and Shamia friendship, but really, if Portia and Shamia were getting along, I feel like the rest of these issues would not be a thing. Just saying, because Portia is getting along with everyone else that Shamia is basically beefing with right now at this moment. And a lot of the beef started because Portia had an issue with them, so therefore she had an issue, basically being a lapdog. And now Shamia this season just looks silly because she's hanging on to all these issues that really had nothing to do with her to begin with. So there's that. I told you she was going to do that. So then after that, as Angela's reading her for filth, the laser gagged. Okay. And then as they're there, they get a group chat, and not all the ladies, only some of the ladies get a group chat. And it's very last minute where Shamia invites some of the women to Gerald's birthday, African inspired. And it's like the very next day. So people got to hurry up and get some African clothes for Gerald's party. See, I knew she was going to do this because she cannot stay balanced. I'm using my back to keep her afloat. This is not working, Whisper. You did this yesterday. Anyway, and then we also find out that, so she invited Phaedra and Cynthia only out of everyone who was there. And then she also invited Dennis, which is really weird, but she didn't invite Portia. And it's just kind of like, and Portia even calls it out. She's like, didn't she beef with Drew all last season because the fact that Drew was hanging out with Dennis and then did all the things like hanging out with Ralph to get back at Drew for hanging out with Dennis, even though that was not even her business to begin with. And yet now she's doing the same thing. And it's like, exactly. She is a freaking hypocrite. And so I wrote in my comments when I found this out, this is all so lame. It's lame. You don't think these women have enough home training to not be a butt of themselves at your home? Because the shoe has been reversed multiple times throughout the season so far. And, you know, Portia's inviting you to events even though she don't get along with you. I'm trying to think, has Angela or Drew had any events yet? I guess that's it. But like but the point is, you decided you were the first one to pull the trigger to exclude people. And you wonder why the audience does not care for you. Although, I will say this. Of everyone she excluded, Angela's kind of the only one where I can make sense of it because she just freshly got in a major argument with her. But the thing is, she started the argument. So I'm annoyed. And I knew I was going to be annoyed pretty much for the rest of the episode when I was watching this because it was just like, oh my gosh. The lack of accountability is sad. Anyway, but that's kind of where we end up here. Anyway, next. Okay, next. So then the next scene is we have a brief scene with K. Michelle and her son Chase. And Chase is a grown man. And we find out that he basically has a job in DC, has a corporate job and doing very well for himself. And I think this was just a little bit of a short scene to just get us to know more about K. Michelle as a person and learn that, you know, from this show, we don't know the relationship between her son and her. I have an idea, but I'm going to leave it to the show because I'm assuming the show is going to go deeper into that for those who are not familiar with K. Michelle. But she just said she's just happy for him, that he's basically doing his thing. And that's pretty much all that happens here. And they basically FaceTime each other. And we also find out that everyone, her son can read her for filth. As, you know, a family member absolutely should or could. Not should, but you know what I mean. But anyway, so that's kind of all that happens here. Next, then we get to Gerald's party, and Shamia, this party was about Shamia. Shamia just really wanted to have this party. Gerald, we find out it was a surprise party. Gerald seemed like he actually did appreciate it because all Gerald's people was actually there. So it actually was legitimately a party for Gerald. But at the same time, I will say the other reason why I'm calling it lame about her inviting Phaedra and Cynthia at the last minute, they weren't in the original invites with the group. So we find out at this party, Kelly was invited, Pinky was invited, K. Michelle was invited, and then I think she invited Phaedra and Cynthia later. All at the last minute, we find out from Shamia, according to her. But she invited them to separate. Like, she invited them, like, later. And to me, that's where I'm getting at. And I think the reason why she did that is because I don't think without them two being there, they're going to film. She wanted it on camera. She did that so it would be on camera, because if it would have been just K. Michelle and Kelly there, that they would have not had it on camera. And that tells me everything I need to know about Shamia and her fakeness. She's just so fake and so disingenuous. And we see more of it this episode. Like, honestly, Shamia and K. Michelle just looked horrible this episode. Like K. Michelle's been looking bad for the past couple episodes, but they just both look very emotionally immature, and it's just so lame. Anyway, so then K. Michelle arrives first, though, and then Cynthia and LaPrince arrives next, and they were looking good, and Cynthia put that together at the last minute like it was nothing. Kelly arrives, and Kelly... I did cackle because it was like a double entendre. She did the hop like a dog thing, like, ah, ah, ah. And considering the fact that she's like 4 foot whatever, and she's basically Shamia's lapdog now, and then also it was funny in more ways than she probably even knew when she did it at the time. In my head, I was like, oh, Yeah. appropriate. Appropriate. Double entendre. And then Phaedra arrives. We find out Pinky was invited, but she was booked and busy. We see her, a brief scene with her doing a presentation, like a business presentation with a former, I think she's basically was telling her story of entrepreneurship. And she had, and the former mayor of Atlanta was there too, and they were doing that kind of a thing. So you found out where she was at. And then this is where Shamea tells us, the audience, that she did invite everyone at the last minute. And I believe her, but I don't think she did it. Like, I feel like, again, Shamea has a tendency of telling half truths. And that's why I can't deal with her. She leaves out things when she tells stories. And the thing that I think she left out is she invited everyone else earlier on in the day, and then she invited them to Phaedra and Cynthia at the last minute. Because I think she got the call from producers saying, we're not going to film this without just, I think if Pinky would have been there, it would have been okay. But I think once Pinky wasn't there, I was like, oh, this is what it was. She was never going to invite them to otherwise. Because Shamea, I think, this season, especially, I think she thinks she's a bigger deal on this show than she is. And she's forgettable. Yes, you have the luxury when it comes to the show, but because you're so corny and so cringy, it cancels everything out. Everyone else has more of a personality than you. And you're just a follower. And it's like hard to respect a follower. Anyway. So then Kelly's drunk. Okay. Kelly is drunk during this whole entire party. She's like, and I mean like almost slosh drunk. She's crying. She's emotional. She keeps wanting to feel Shamea's booty. And then also in the confessional, K. Michelle talking about how she wants to have a threesome with all of them. And I'm just kind of like, oh God, this ain't it. I was kind of just getting the ick the whole entire time. Because she was like, I want to have a threesome with Kelly, my husband, Shamea and her husband. I was like, not threesome, orgy. Because that's really an orgy, okay, right? I was like, child. And the whole entire time I'm watching this thing, I'm like, what is happening? And really, Cynthia and Phaedra were like the most normal looking ones on the whole entire time. There. And Phaedra, I forgot what she was going to ask, but she asked, she basically stated how she just wants in the future for others to be, included in the next events because it's not, she basically alluded to that. And then Shamea then tells her side of the story of what happened with the Angela thing. And immediately Shamea starts off really aggressive, calling Angela Bigfoot. And Cynthia's offended by it, just like I would be and am, because she's like, I'm part of the Bigfoot community. Why are you saying that? That's like not okay. She's like, well, if you saw her clicking and clocking along, you would think that way too. It's like, you do realize Cynthia used to be a supermodel, so she's also tall with big limbs. Also. And Shamea is being just like such a brat and professional. Like, I would call her that as long as I want to. And it's just kind of like, if all you can do is read her for how she looks, you lost me. You're just so not clever. It's just so lame. It's so corny. And you basically told on yourself without telling on yourself that you're not telling the truth about how things really went. She tried to make it sound like Angela came out hot. And it's just like, no, the way you told the story gives me everything we need to know. You came out hot, and Angela just matched your energy and wore you for filth like she should. You had a couple of zingers in there here and there, but it just wasn't going to give, and it never will. Like, and so I'm just like, okay. That was kind of my thought on that. And then in the parentheses, I wrote lame again. Y'all can tell I do not care for Shamia. In this episode, she irked my spirit. But anyway, next. Okay, so this next scene, I actually pleasantly liked it. Didn't think I would because I don't really care for the other person. But we have Portia and Giselle. They meet up and they get caught up. And I actually enjoyed this scene a lot. And Giselle looked good here. I was like, okay. And so they just recap and catch up because they're actual friends in real life. And so Portia kind of gives her a briefing of how the divorce went. And we found out, they were in the courtroom for 15 hours, but it got done the same day. And then Giselle, in her PowerPoint way, was like, yeah, what's going on with you and Shamia? And Portia basically states, I'm going to be cordial towards her. And she shades her intentionally, as she should. She passively aggressively shaded her. She was like, yeah, I'm just not the type of person who's not going to invite her to an event. Like, I'm going to invite her to an event and just be cordial. Like the fact, and then pretty much alluding to the fact of what Shamia just did, because it was some BS. And yeah, so we know that beef, it's brewing. It's brewing more than it already was brewing, but it's not getting any better because Shamia and her passive-aggressive actions are making things worse. And so that's what we have here. And side note, y'all already know, not to read her down some more, but I am going to read her down some more. The way that Shamia is so bothered by Drew and her passive-aggressive, throwing the rock, hiding her hand, it just kills me that Shamia doesn't realize she literally does the same thing, but she does it much worse and more frequently. That's the part that gets me. I think with Drew is not as obvious. And it doesn't come off as childish either. So I also wanted to call that out because foreshadowing. Anyway, next, we then see that Pinky is doing the casting call for her show. And Drew arrives and we're thinking, okay, Drew's going to audition. No. But you know who is already there to audition? Shamia. She is there to audition. And Drew shows up and just basically gives her support. And it's like, Drew... And this is what I was talking about. Drew was being shady and she was throwing her rock, hiding her hand with this one because this was shady boots. And it kind of reminded me, it was a little bit of a callback of, for those who watch Real Housewives of Orange County, when, that lady who used to be on Beverly Hills was on that show for a second, asked for Heather to audition, and Heather was just like, you got to go through the proper channels with me to do that. It was very much a similar situation where Drew was like, you need to go through the proper channels through me in order for me to audition. And Shamia is much newer to acting, so of course she's just trying to get her foot in the door. But Pinky was personally offended by it, and it's just like, girl, there's no reason for you to be offended. But I think it would have been not as offensive if Drew gave her a direct answer of, hey, you have to go through these channels. If you don't go through these channels, I won't be auditioning. I could come and show my support, but I won't audition. So a little bit of a miscommunication, but I feel like it was somewhat intentional because Drew be knowing what she'd be doing at times. So I will give you that on this one. I feel like Drew kind of did this on purpose a little bit. But anyway, Pinky was annoyed and she nicely kicked Drew out in a very professional manner. But we do see, though, that Shamia does audition and does a decent job. And so that's kind of where we leave it at. Notori was there again, just hyping things up. And I would like to see more of this. Like, Pinky, love or hate her, she's bringing storylines to this season. We are seeing her and all the different facets of her entrepreneurship. And I am intrigued. I am. I'm locked in. So I think she's a great addition to the show. I think I've said that multiple times, but I'm just going to reiterate it. Whether you love or hate her, she's a great addition to the show. Anyway, next. So then next we see K. Michelle at her house, and she actually invites Phaedra over. So this is one of the first housewives to show up at K. Michelle's house. And K. Michelle tells on herself without telling on herself. She really becoming in these situations not wanting to like people. And so this explains most of the beef. And I feel like even this thing that she was talking about the plot, I think it was made up. I think she made it up because she wants a reason to not like people. But she actually does like Phaedra. She's like, I was trying to find a reason not like her, but actually like her. And I also feel like she figured out right away there's no reason to beef with Phaedra, so it'll just make her look crazy. Well, crazier than she already looks. So I think that's also part of it. But anyway, they tried their luck at fishing, do a horrible job. And then we find out that because Phaedra does go into asking like, hey, so how's being a newlywed? How's that going? And what's going on with the children's situation? We have kids, this and this and we find out that K. Michelle did try to do the IVF thing. She doesn't want to do it again. She was like, it made me crazier than I already am. At least she knows she's crazy. That's one thing about her. She's at least self-aware of that. But she's like, yeah, it made me crazier than I already am, and I'll never do that again. But we are thinking about doing a donor situation. That way it's still his child because he wants to have a child. So that's where we leave it at when it comes to that. And then from there, they talk a little bit about Gerald's party and Phaedra being shady. She's like, why do you think Portia wasn't invited? And K. Michelle's like, girl, you know why Portia wasn't invited. She's like, I know how this group, we love to pretend we're kumbaya and everything, but ain't no damn kumbaya. Let's stop it. And which you not really wrong. But then Phaedra is like, well, will you come to Drew's national anthem event? And K. Michelle had all the reasons in the world not to come. And really, their beef is not that serious. It's not. K. Michelle and her one-side beef with Drew is really getting exhausting at this point. And it just is getting more cringy, too, as we're watching. So she's like, I'm going to try to show up for you. I'm going to try. And so that's what happens here. She tries to show up. Fast forward, we find out that Drew's national anthem event is actually Rich Homie Quan. It's his memorial event that his family puts together because he's no longer with us, unfortunately. Rest in peace. And so Shamia shows up first. I love how Drew in the confessional kind of shaded her. She was like, yeah, it was surprising that she's surprised that Shamia is there. But not showing up is kind of a big deal because Rich Homie Quan is kind of a big deal in Atlanta. So if you want to be seen, you would go. And that's what she kind of alluded to, that Shamia wanted to be seen, and that's why she was there. Under the veils of wanting to support Drew. But it made no sense. And really, I forgot to mention, during the casting call, Shamia and Drew were cordial towards each other. And I feel like the producer said something to them. And more or less to Shamia than to Drew. Because I feel like Drew's been trying to be over this situation, but Shamia just keeps doing things to make it worse. Drew has a couple of times too, but it's mainly Shamia to me that's happening. And maybe I'm a little biased because you already know I love me some Drew, so there's also that. Anyway, so then Pinky arrives also. Pinky does throw some jabs about Drew, and as she's throwing jabs, Drew's manager pops up at the right time and just sashays her along. And honestly, in this case, was the right choice because she's about to sing. You cannot be in a messed up space about to sing. It's especially the national anthem, which is one of the most difficult things to sing. You don't want to be in a messed up space getting ready for that. But then Kelly also arrives. Portia arrives, and she does. And then Drew did her big one. She did a great job. And even like Shamia, her confessional, was like, she did a great job. I can't even be mad at her. She actually did a good job. And yeah. But then we also find out that K. Michelle was there the whole entire time, just in the car. And then she gets out of the car after Drew's thing's over with to say hi to Rich Homie Kwan's family. It's like, no, I'm here for Rich Homie Kwan's family, not for you. I was like, K. Michelle, what is this? This is so lame. And when I thought it was going to get more lame, child, it gets more lame. And that's why this thumbnail is called Lame and Lamer. Because to me, it should have been called that. Because to me, I just kept saying it. I was like, dang, that's lame. That's lame. That's lame. That's lame. I used the word so many times. You could have got drunk off of me saying it before the episode was over with. I'm just saying. Anyway, next. So then the final scene, they were talking about all getting food who were there. And a lot of the women declined. And even Drew after the fact was like, I should have did the same thing and decline. So it's just Shamea, Drew, and K. Michelle. And Drew is trying so hard to make things right with K. Michelle, but K. Michelle is having no parts of it. And she's like, oh, I have to go to the restroom real quick. And Shamea's like, girl, no. Like, let me hold your purse. And because she had her purse, because you could tell K. Michelle's about to leave. Why did K. Michelle get in Shamea's car and take off without her purse? And then Shamea's like, now you leaving the crime scene and leaving me here. And Drew was like, you need to hold your girl accountable because what is this? Like, you got to use your words. Like, I don't know what her problem is with me because she won't use her whole entire words of what her problem is with me. And frankly, no one here that's watching the show understands what K. Michelle's problem is with Drew. I mean, yes, we know what she's accusing Drew of doing, but there's no proof, no receipts, no timeline, no nothing. So we're just like, what is this? And then Shamea keeps trying to push this narrative that Drew kept talking about the black situation over and over again. And really, she only did it the one time. And everyone else in the group can vouch for Drew saying she only did the one time. We see the scene where Shamea, like Drew asked everyone, did I do that? And everyone said no, except for Shamea. And Drew's like, okay, I see what's happening here. She is trying to indirectly mess with the Drew through K. Michelle, which is very much what is happening here to me. And Drew calls it out. She's like, I need you to be, she's like, and Shamea, I need her to speak for herself. Here you go being someone's representative yet again. And Shamea can't take it because the truth hurts, but it's true. She was trying to speak for K. Michelle while K. Michelle wasn't there. It's just like, but K. Michelle's a grown woman. Why can't she speak for herself? And that's what Drew's point was too. And she's like, you went from being a lapdog to Portia, and now you're being K. Michelle's lapdog. At this point, I don't see where the lie is. And so Shamea gets all mad, and then she leaves too. And the way she leaves is just so lame. And also, by the way, while this is happening, K. Michelle clearly shows back up. So she must have just had to make a lap around or something because she was just trying to make a scene. And that's the other thing too that I've noticed with K. Michelle. Honestly, since this plot thing is she just is trying to make a scene. And it's just so... I am disappointed. I really wanted K. Michelle on the show. I thought she'd be a great fit. But the fact that she is digressing right in front of my eyes when it comes to her behavior, I'm just like... And really the whole entire time, if she would just mind her own business and just kind of... She really could have just floated along and they would have been fine with her probably being on the show again. But... it's just she's trying to... I feel like she's just overly producing so much drama that's not necessary. And it's not cute. And so Shamea leaves too because Shamea can't take it. And then you hear... and then K. Michelle is blasting the Star Spankled Banner and they're both singing it. And by the way, Shamea was singing that off key. Shamea, if you're going to read, make it make sense. I'm just saying. But then, you want to see what I wrote? Last thing I wrote in my notes was lame. But anyway, that is where the episode ends. And I something's got to give. And good luck to you, Shami, in this reunion. I don't think you're going to do well. I think you're going to probably walk away multiple times because I think you're going to have a couple women eating you up, and especially with your behavior because it has just been like crappy. It's been worse than last season. You're going to do that apology again that you weren't really sorry about. Anyway, but that does conclude this review. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Mel Nostalgic Runner, and I will see you next time. Bye.